Hi, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm glad that you are here. Today we are going to talk about conflict. And in our story, we're going to use The Outsiders as I use examples, and we need to put in this box right here kind of our definition. You probably are familiar with this. Some people might call it a problem. If you wanted to broaden that out a little bit, you might say that a conflict is a struggle. S-T-R-U-G-G-L-E. Sorry, it's kind of hard to type and write at the same time. Between opposing that's 2P forces. So there's your definition, a problem or a struggle between two opposing forces. And in all of literature, they're never going to add any more, there are two types of conflict. You have your internal conflict, and you also have an external conflict. So take a minute and think about that. Look at your words, and you can probably figure this out if you are thinking about this. This is an internal is inside, and an external, just like an exit sign, is out. So when you have your internal conflict, there's only one. This is person versus self. So when you have a conflict that is inside your head or your heart, that's kind of how I do it. This is an internal conflict. Now when you look at your external conflict, we're over here, and you are looking at three different types of external conflict. Your first one is person versus person. And some of you may have heard character versus character, man versus man. So all of those are correct. I just happen to use person versus person. Your next one is person versus nature. And the final one is person versus society. Now, when you are reading novels, you may see all of these conflicts the character may have. And let's see, can I pause this? Sorry about that. So we have, where was I? Internal, external. You may have a character who has an internal conflict and has many external conflicts. Let's talk, for example, I like to use, when we're talking about person versus nature, the book Hatchet. If you enjoyed Hatchet or read Hatchet, this is a person versus nature, where the main character, the protagonist, is really struggling in a natural situation. In looking at society, these books are so prevalent now, and these are like the Hunger Games. These books have become very popular. They are great to read. You've got a trilogy there. And then you have this one character, typically it's your protagonist, who is struggling with societal rules. And so there's your person versus society. Notice, just pick these things up. I underlined the title because titles of books are underlined. So when you are looking at these examples, I'm going to give you your internal conflict and give you an example of this. In our particular book, The Outsiders, we have Johnny, and he is really having an internal conflict, of course, with his self. That's person versus self. And so I chose the character Johnny, and you can see this with our quote where he tells Dallas that he is going to turn himself in. And so you can see that at some point he had some kind of internal conflict. So I'm going to prove that with textual evidence. And look at my example. We're going back and turn ourselves in. And notice I'm going to put my end quote because I'm done copying, and then I'm going to put, I've run out of room, Hinton, and the page number. And that happens to be on page 87. And notice I put the period there at the end. So you've got a person, in this case I chose the character Johnny, and his decision. Notice that was something he had to make kind of in his head or in his heart. These are not things that he is going to solve with his fists. This is a decision here with his head, or a change of heart that he has had about something that he knew. So what I want you and your partner to do are to come up with an example for each one of these in The Outsiders. Come up with that person versus person conflict. Give me an example of person versus nature in The Outsiders, and find an example of person versus society. I am looking for this modeling where you are backing these up with information from the text. So I'm looking for textual information. You can write this down here on your notes. And then finally, just to wrap up, I want you to be thinking about what is the biggest conflict. So this is for your thinking. What is the biggest conflict in this novel? I hope this was helpful. Please do not forget, as you finish writing these notes in your composition book, to turn to your partner and find this. Let me know if I can be of any help, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you.